Welcome to Living Legacy Leadership, where we'll explore, discover, and share insights, tools, and strategies for a life well lived into elderhood. I'm your host, Donna Kim Brand, author, speaker, legacy strategy coach, and creator of the concept Living Legacy, where you choose to live life on your own terms while contributing to people, places, and projects along your life journey. I believe that the life you live is the legacy you leave. Now, the guests I bring to each week all address some unique aspect of learning, leadership, or legacy. This helps you raise your own game as a leader in business and life, and also showcases some extraordinary people who exemplify living legacy leadership. At least once a month, I also offer a training session to skill you in game changer thinking for your own application. So get your notebook ready or sharpen up your memory by tuning in your attention, and we'll dive right in. Now, for our regular listeners, you may recognize our guest coming up right here as the one and only Ron Donovan. Now, Ron is a masterful executive coach with international experience in strategic magic. He applies principles of human nature to gain both organizational efficiency and also empathetic engagement in an environment of cooperation. Today, we're going to discuss a very timely topic of how to remain sane in the midst of insanity. So welcome, Ron Donovan.
Thank you, Dan.
So let me just, first of all, set the scene. We are a couple of months into the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, in the United States at least, a couple of months in. And I just want to check in, Ron, how are you doing? I know you live on an island, so does that make you feel safer or actually more at risk?
Well, the island is kind of suburban, maybe even rural. So it's a little bit safer than living in Seattle proper. But we have a lot of sickness here and some deaths, so nobody feels safe.
And you and your family, you're all okay, doing well, avoided the grip?
So far, we think we're all doing great. My son is the most worried. My daughter might have had the coronavirus, but didn't get a chance to actually go to the doctor, so we don't know for sure. But so far, actually just today, everybody's healthy.
Well, that's really good to hear. I'm so glad. So, I know you're a guy anyway, even though you live on an island, you are a coach internationally, and I know you go to the mainland often, and you're also always in contact with clients and friends around the world. So just, I respect your viewpoint or your perspective. What's your sense, putting your finger on the pulse of what's happening? What the heck is really going on? And what do you think?
Well, what's going on? It's not really clear to anybody what's going on, but I think there are a lot of things you can point to that say this is likely to be happening. People are separated from all the things they know, all the things that they're familiar with, their habits and routines. And we know that can make people anxious, nervous, even depressed. And I think, although we have some ideas to talk about today, I don't think there's any really easy answer of what to do. There are things that will happen to people no matter what they do. The view is that depression is increasing. And that's one of those things, people talk about, well, I'm so depressed that I can't meet with my friends and have a coffee. But that's not the same as depression. And we don't have the time to talk in detail about depression, but serious depression is a darkness, and it's debilitating. It's not just, I feel bad, it's actually debilitating. So people have to watch out for that. And if they have a problem, have to get in touch with somebody. It'll have to be by telephone, but get in touch with somebody to begin to work through it, because it can be a downward spiral. So we know that's happening, and we can guess about other things. During times of real crisis, during wars, people lose their sense of time. In fact, I saw a really funny thing on Facebook the other day. It was a clock for the coronavirus, and it just had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There were no hours in the day because who cares? Yeah. Is today Monday or is it Saturday? I don't know. But with this clock, you would know. So people lose track of time. They lose track of the past. They lose track of the future. And they know that what they used to do to control the future or to imagine they were controlling the future is simply impossible at this point. So they tend to slow down and focus on the moment. And if they can get the fear and anxiety out of the way, they're simply living in the now, which is a really good suggestion. And if you can do it, it's very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, people who practice mindfulness, that's a big part of the goal, is to get people to focus on the now and, release fleeting and flitting thoughts about all kinds of things. Now, that whole litany of different emotions you ran through sounds a bit to me almost like the timeline, or what do you call it, the process of grief. Everything from denial, which we all started with a few months ago, moving into fear, anxiety, maybe acceptance, and then now we're at the point where people are either bored, maybe highly productive, highly motivated, even more creative. Are you seeing evidence of all these different manifestations?
Oh, absolutely. We've got some people who are absolutely focused on staying at home and staying out of the way of the illness, and others who were just out yesterday and the day before protesting, standing in big crowds protesting that people have been ordered to stay home. So there's a range of reactions just to the virus. And then the range of reactions to being isolated, it's pretty great. You can see people swinging downward, and you can see others saying, okay, I can make this work. For me, I can make this work. And they're doing it. We don't know, and we can't really predict how long they'll be able to do that. But when people are faced with change, they change. There's no doubt about it. They change, and they figure out a way to make things work. They might not be happy about it, and they might be delighted, but they figure out a way to make things work. And I think for people who are feeling cut off or kind of shunted by this isolation, one of the things to do is to begin to move away from the anxiety, move away from the fear, and just begin to be a little bit creative about where you are and think about, what could I do here that fits with all of my requirements and limitations? It's funny, I guess we could compare for a moment the contrast between fear and creativity. People think, I can't be creative. I can't learn how to be creative. How can I do that? And so they live in this fear that whatever they've been shunted away from is where they are now. And when in fact, there are things to think about. There are ways to think about being creative. And I think when I'm working with somebody, when I'm coaching somebody who's feeling big fears, I encourage them to take small steps. I'll ask them, what's the thing that makes you the most afraid? And then take a very small step to move beyond that. And I resist the idea that you can learn how to be creative. I think almost every human being is born with creativity. And we see it in almost every baby, how creative they are, how they figure things out. And it goes for a certain period of time. Doubt might take over at some point in late childhood or adulthood. And if it does, all you have to do is stop and say, what small thing can I do that's creative? It might be drawing. It might be building something. It might be designing something. But whatever it is, something that takes you from sitting on the couch to creating something, moves you away from fear, moves you away from anxiety, and reproves to yourself that you're a naturally creative being. And that should be a part of your role in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, as somebody who teaches about creativity, I think I like to position creativity as a lifestyle orientation. It requires a willingness to take some risk because you're creating something that heretofore didn't ever exist before, at least in the same way. And sure, yeah, you can learn tools and techniques, teach that stuff, but I think there is just a willingness to be a little bit playful and step into the unknown. And I would suggest that one of the ways to get creative is simply to look, how can I make a contribution either to making my own life a little more sane or someone else's life a little more sane. And I think a lot of parents are finding this when they were, stuck at home with their kids, which sounds like a horrible thing to say, but for a lot of parents, they're used to like sending their kids off to camp school all day. They've never had to spend full days other than weekends or, short vacations with their kids. And they're having to become very creative for their own sanity as well as the sanity and elevation of their kids. Are you seeing any of this?
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll make clear that I agree with what you're saying, that you can help people discover their creativity, but teaching them how to be creative is usually not necessary because it's all right there. They need to take a step forward, act a little creatively, and see that in fact they are creative and to make it work. Yes, I'm seeing a lot of parents are having an issue because these kids, who the heck are they? I see them at dinner and then I put them to bed, but all day long they want something. So yeah, there's some real issues there, and parents have to be creative. They have to be more parent-like sometimes than they want to be, and give their kids room to be who they are, and sometimes work with them and sometimes stay out of their way. It's a real learning experience, and it will change the way the kids and the parents see each other and act toward each other. You'll find, I think, some real closeness or some horrid distance, and we're finding that. I mean, cases of abuse and neglect are existing more now than when everybody was shipping their kids off to daycare or school and going on about their business. So we have both ends of the spectrum here to pay attention to. But I think in general, most parents love their kids, and aside from a few get-togethers or sometimes conflicts, you'll find that they become closer together because as the parents have to stop and listen, they will hear more and know more about their children and what their children need and want.
Yeah, and what a gift, frankly, for everybody concerned, even if it does require going through a little bit of that period of figuring out who it is you're sharing your house with.
Really, really true. Yeah.
One of the big issues that's come up a lot is loneliness. And, with this sheltering at home and forced isolation and not being able to so go out and about in public places is raising that whole specter of how lonely people are anyway, and now it's enforced. But just to add a little bit of levity to it before you wax lyrical. Wax lyrical. That wasn't the funny part, but it was pretty funny. Somebody sent a bunch of COVID-19 jokes to lighten the day, and here's one about that. This morning, I saw a neighbor outside talking to her cat. It was obvious she thought the cat understood her. I came into the house and told my dog. We laughed a lot.
That's waxing lyrical.
Yeah,
No, I think loneliness was an issue before the virus.